No freaking way. God, I am about to have the biggest I told you so moment of all time. So, recently I've been talking about how the right and even the left have fallen for this, tendency that conservatives have to somehow get away with the most horrific shit ever that should follow them forever, but to pretend as though you're being crazy if you don't get over it, after a month. For example, January 6th. The right, and their overwhelming response to Biden's State of the Union address, as I saw on Twitter, was that they admitted they immediately stopped watching the second Joe Biden mentioned January 6th. And all the comments were like, yeah, I know, right? Just get over it already. It's like, it hasn't even been a whole presidential, cycle since the literal attempted coup on our Capitol by one of the currently front-running presidential candidates where they tried to overturn our democracy. Actually, I think now is a better time than ever to not get over it, because the getting over it would help your guy. Very dishonest methodology, and it's because they know that they can't really excuse that situation. They can only try to cover it up by making people forget, by burying it in the past, right? And so one of those big, claims the right made to try to attack Biden that got debunked was the claim that Biden had stolen and hidden classified documents in his home. Now, what actually ended up happening was it was found out that there were, among shitloads of filed documents and stuff that Biden, by the way, legally, had in his garage, locked up in there, just for storage, because, he's worked in government for, 100 years. Obviously, he'd have a lot of documentation at his house to, have on hand. Even if it's just copies of documentation he needs to have on hand for if something happens at home or he needs to reference something. He's a politician, okay? He's been a politician for longer than anyone in chat's been alive. So, with that in mind, they find these documents, in his garage, and they look through them, and some of them are classified. At the time, the right blows this up. It's a huge scandal. It's made Biden look like he's betrayed the country. However, after a thorough investigation, here's what ends up happening. Now, as it turns out, those documents were not classified when Biden took them home. After the investigation is finished, it is determined Biden broke no laws and did nothing wrong because Biden took home those documents, stored them away, and they were retroactively classified, something that happens all the time in Washington, and he just forgot about them. It was not the same thing as Trump taking a bunch of documents with him as he left the White House and then actively, showing them to foreign leaders as he, unsecurely locks them up in his, hotel / country club, golf course, resort place, Mar-a-Lago. They tried to compare those two things. They just weren't the same. Yeah, he kept them in the bathroom. They weren't the same by even a long shot. However, despite Biden getting exonerated of any claims that he could have been, stowing away classified documents to try and fuck over America or sell them or whatever it may be, and Trump having actually done those things, they very quickly just decided to try to cover it up, move on from it, because it makes them look bad to have ever tried to go so hard on Biden for something that ended up being a nothing burger. So they move on to the next thing. The next thing was something that came out of the investigation, which was during a transcript of an interview that Biden had, or a questioning Biden had, he had gotten a couple of dates wrong according to one of the special investigators. This is where, the really big explosion in the claims that Biden's brain is melting and that there's actual, evidence beyond YouTube videos and, clips of him stuttering to claim that he's losing his mind and that his, brain is melting or whatever. It came from the special counsel's claim that Biden had a hard time recalling events, dates, and names when he was questioned. Not that he, seemed like he didn't have his story straight, but they claimed that it seemed like his memory was going to shit. However, hilariously, and this is the big story that's hit the presses today in the world of politics, Biden transcript calls into question special counsel's bombshell memory claims against Biden. The transcript has come out. And as it turns out, the special counsel's claims that Biden's memory is failing him, the claim that was like the most solid basis for the idea that Biden's brain is degenerating, as it turns out, it was all bullshit. It was all bullshit. A transcript from a special counsel's interviews with President Biden about his handling of classified documents shows that the Democrat repeatedly insisted he never deliberately intended to retain the sensitive files, according to reports, while also shedding light on some of the exchanges that led to a bombshell claim about Biden's memory. Biden did at times appear uncertain about dates and the order of events during his conversations with special counsel Robert Hur last October. But the transcript for their interviews could lead to questions about Hur's sensational conclusions about Biden having, quote, significant limitations on his memory, according to the Associated Press. That's right. This Hur guy is the guy who blew up the claim that Biden's memory was failing him after the special counsel investigation. But now the transcript has come out, and it turns out bro was just lying. Last month, Hur said in a report that he had chosen not to bring charges against the president over his handling of classified documents, partly because he would be able to portray himself as an elderly man with a poor memory. Hur said that Biden had been unable to accurately place when his son Beau had died, and also had trouble recalling his tenure as vice president, when his tenure as vice president started and ended. Biden had angrily hit back at Hur in relation to his son's death. Quote, "How in the hell dare he raise that?" Biden said on the day the report was released. Quote, "Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business." In fact, the transcript shows that Hur never even asked about Beau's death. It was Biden himself who brought up the subject while he discussed a book in which he addressed his son's illness and death, according to AP, which has reviewed the transcript. "What month did Beau die?" Biden asked before adding, what month did Beau die? Biden asked before adding, "Oh God, May 30th, the correct date." After a White House lawyer said the death was in 2015, Biden asked, was it 2015 he died? So, this was literally him asking a White House lawyer, like, wait, what? Asking, like, what do you mean? And the Hur guy literally lied about him getting the date wrong. The transcript literally has Biden getting the date right, and Hur came out in his report that was public, that everybody like freaked out about, the big bombshell report on Biden, saying that Biden's memory was failing him, he's a doddering old man, and that he couldn't even remember the date of his son's death. That's crazy. The exchange came as part of conversations in which Biden was grilled about the documents he'd seen during his time as vice president, along with where and how he'd stored them and why some were still in his possession after years leaving office. Biden reportedly insisted multiple times in the interviews that he didn't know how classified documents had ended up in his home and former private office in Washington, D.C. Quote, "I have no idea," he said at one point, also claiming that he would have handed over sensitive materials to the government had he been aware they were there. By the way, like, when you are being questioned like this, you never said, well, maybe this happened, otherwise they will see that as a confession, by the way. You literally can only say, I have no idea, I don't know. Like, and that's the case. Like, he doesn't know why they were classified documents, because the documents weren't classified when he had them. Elsewhere, the transcript reportedly shows lighter moments in the conversations. Biden joked with prosecutors that the, quote, "FBI knows my house better than I do," and said, "I just hope you didn't find any risque pictures of my wife in a bathing suit," according to the Washington Post. I like how Biden's actually kind of a bro when he jokes around. "Which you probably did," he added. "She's beautiful." Aww. I like how Biden goes from, like, old school, kind of, like, a little bit, like, misogynistic to, like, unironically saying, "My wife's beautiful," in like an investigation. That's nice. The commander-in-chief also made noises like a car on more than one occasion in the interviews, the Post reports, including while discussing his Chevrolet Corvette, and at another point when he spoke about electric vehicles. He told prosecutors, I just know he went, "Now listen, Jack, I tell you what, now the Chevrolet Corvette goes, you know, it's got that sort of classic car sound to it, but when you drive an electric car, it's just got a just makes that noise. That is definitely what Biden was doing. Oh my gosh. He's such an old man. He told prosecutors at another stage at the conversation that he could tell that a photograph is old because, quote, I have my arm around Lindsey Graham. Her is testifying before Republican-led congressional committees Tuesday. In prepared remarks, Her defended his assessment of Biden's memory and age as accurate and fair. Quote, what I wrote is what I believe the evidence shows and what I expect jurors would perceive and believe, he wrote. Quote, I did not sanitize my explanation, nor did I disparage the president unfairly. He also claimed that, quote, the evidence and the president himself put his memory squarely at issue. So the Robert Hur guy, the guy whose report was the main foundation of the claim that Biden's memory and, like, cognitive abilities are failing him, outside of, like, here's him stuttering on video a couple times, it was all bullshit. There has been a concerted effort to try and, like, smear Biden for his weakest quality, fundamentally, his age. Despite the fact he's done a great job as president this whole time, like, he objectively has. Like, if we're judging him on the grade of other presidents, he has been possibly the best president America has had. Especially when it comes to domestic policy, especially. And so with that in mind, it's like, they're finding anything they can to attack him with. And they recognize that the only real, like, thing that people have against Biden right now, and you can say, like, people are mad about Palestine, but it's not really what's motivating the majority of people to not support Biden. It's very much an internet thing, like a young people internet thing, of, like, among people who don't ever vote anyway. So that's not really what's affecting it. It's the people who don't really vibe with Biden being so old. And while Biden's not clearly, or apparently, his brain is not, like, going out on him, he is still older, well older than the average American lifespan, as is Donald Trump. They're way too fucking old. Now, obviously, I would prefer someone younger than Biden, but Biden is our only choice. And so we go with Biden. I just hope that now you know that this entire time there's been an actual effort, like an unironic, like literally the effort that exists, that Trump claim existed to try to, like, hurt his reputation and keep him out of office, is what exists to try and keep Biden down. They have nothing they can really attack him for, so they attack his son for having, like, drug problems, as if that is, like, a bearing on him, a completely different person. Like, as if Biden could, like, theoretically help the fact that he has a son. Like, what is he gonna do? Kill his son? Lock him up? For, like, his son's an adult, you know? They attack him for his age, something he can't control. It's really dishonest, but if you actually look at the kind of job Biden is doing as president, it's just, he's doing a good job, and there's nothing all that exciting or scathing to attack him for. And so the claims about him have gotten more insane than ever. Though I will say, I don't think anything beats the fact that conservatives to this day still get upset that, and I quote, Obama never released his birth certificate. He did, by the way. He did release his birth certificate. But, like, Trump supporters and conservatives still to this day claim, like, Obama was born in Kenya, and he still hasn't released his birth certificate. These people never change.